The survival MMO hybrid Dune Awakening launched its head start on June 5th, and somehow it's going really well. I've spent over 30 hours in the game over the last few days, and honestly, it'd be a lot more if I wasn't pausing to make this video. With thousands of players flooding in and Steam reviews sitting at overall positive, I wanted to step back, take a breath, and figure out why Dune Awakening is working, or whether it A, has a future, and B, is a game you might enjoy as well. So far, Dune Awakening's been a mix of fast, streamlined building mechanics, a satisfying blend of linear and open-ended progression, atmospheric sound design, where's my base? Dune-inspired environments and challenges, voice-acted NPCs,
She's dead. Oh, tragic. Truly tragic.
and some surprisingly fun movement and class mixing. But is that enough to carry me into the late game? Overall, the game doesn't demand your time like a second job, but when you do log in, it rewards your time well. And as someone who isn't typically great at survival-style games, this is a big bonus. You can go hardcore, or take it slow, all while living out your Dune fantasy in one of sci-fi's most brutal universes. And as someone who's played pretty much every Dune game and seen every Dune movie, yes, even that one, hence my ginger Harkonnen, the sandstorms, ornithopters, and brutal sandworm death penalties keep you on your toes while scratching that Dune itch. But before we get too deep, let's quickly clear up what Dune Awakening actually is, because it's not an MMO in the traditional sense. Instead, this is a survival MMO hybrid, blending server-based survival gameplay with the larger scope and structure of an MMO. When you first log in, you'll pick a server, or as the game calls it, a world. Each world contains 20 Hagar Basin servers, each with up to 40 players. These are your PvE sandbox zones where you'll spend most of your early to mid game. Players can visit other players in other Hagar Basins, with a total population of around 800 players per world, with room for future expansion. All of these Hagar Basins connect to the Deep Desert, the massive endgame zone 9 times larger than a Hagar Basin, with room for 300 players across the entire Deep Desert, but only 100 players can ever play together in a single play area. And the 2 social hubs, Arakeen and Harko Village, your Stormwind and Orgrimmar equivalents. These are where you'll handle your banking, questing, auction house trading, and class progression. Between all of this is the Overland map, where you'll use your crafted ornithopter to travel between the zones. The Deep Desert is where the endgame lies, and the most unproven part of the game so far, which could turn around and bite Funcom in the arse. Here you'll fight as a neutral, or for House Atreides or House Harkonnen, helping your faction control the Landsraad and pass weekly decrees that affect everyone in your world, like triggering full loot PvP for everybody in the Deep Desert for an entire week. You have to be personally aligned with Harkonnens or Atreides, and you have to be in a guild that is also aligned with either of those to start contributing to the Landsraad terms. So that's the destination for Dune Awakening. But what do you do on your way there? Whether you're slaughtering AI to help fill your blood bags to purify for water later on, or waiting for that perfect time of day to reap dew to fill your Litajon, the day-to-day gameplay loops in Dune Awakening feel surprisingly smooth and satisfying. Gathering, for example, doesn't really feel like a chore, and if anything, it's almost addictive. The feedback, animations, and variety of gatherable resources, including water, make it hard not to hoover up everything you happen to come by. Your carry capacity also strikes a nice balance. You can bring home a solid haul on each outing, but you'll still be faced with meaningful decisions at times. Do you hold on to that crucial ore for those ingots you need back home, or should you make room for that vehicle engine you just found in a research station? Thankfully, your vehicle also has its own inventory space, meaning trips rarely devolve into annoying inventory management puzzles. Even in the relative calm of the Hagar Basin starting area, the world keeps you on edge from the start. Sudden sandstorms can roll in, forcing you to stop what you're doing and take cover.
Is a sandstorm coming?
Okay, get the bikes! Vehicles left exposed will take damage. You'll often hear a sandstorm coming before you see it, with a general warning to all who might be caught in the storm's path. On the rare occasion you are caught, it can help to break up gameplay, punish your lack of attention or create moments of suspense during your day-to-day tasks. Of course, this wouldn't be a Dune game without sandworms, which are attracted by your vibrations as you move across the sand. These are the little ones, with the much bigger worms found later on in the deep desert. If you're not careful or quick enough, a sandworm will burst out the ground before chasing you to your death, causing you to lose everything you were carrying. Initially on foot, the sandworms can feel like a real threat, but once you acquire your first bike, it's a lot easier to cross the sands and avoid them. With that said, the threat and tension never really goes away, and the more expensive and powerful your items, the more you stand to lose.
This was a bug in the beta as well, it wouldn't put you in the proper seat.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oof. Is that for us?
Yeah, that was for us.
Holy shit, that was quick. What really surprised me early on was how quickly you're able to start building, and not with some slow, grindy unlock process either, but right after a few early parts of your journey. Once you've decided on where you want to build, simply drop a sub-thief, and from there, as long as you have the materials in your inventory or stored nearby, you can start slapping a base together, with a big variety of shapes, angles, and styles to make the base of your dreams early on. Walls, floors, crafting stations, utilities, decor, it's all fairly intuitive and feels easy and responsive to place or remove depending on your requirements. Even on sloped terrain, the game handles snapping and leveling quite well. I will say though, navigating the menus does take some time to get used to, and even 30 hours in, I still find myself messing up when trying to navigate the right menu, submenu, structure list, toolbar, etc. The building system is grid-based, but not overly restrictive. You can get creative with multi-floor bases, blend terrain into your structures, or even just make a cozy outpost with the basics. My smooth-brained ass opted for the classic box, at least initially, as I intend to make a more grander base later on, further to the north. The foundation for base building here is really strong, and Funcom will no doubt expand heavily on it with cosmetics and DLCs later down the line. I can see people spending their entire time playing this game just perfecting their base builds. Bases aren't just for aesthetics either. You'll obviously need it for things like refining materials, storing your gear, crafting vehicles, housing your water system, and pretty much everything else you'd need to be fully autonomous, with players eventually creating, no doubt, full-blown streamlined production facilities. There's also a strategic layer to where you build. Players need to think about their proximity to useful outposts, AI for blood farming or rare resource spawns. Later on, when you start building in deep desert PvP areas, you'll also want it to be fully defendable. Right now, there's no siege system or base raiding in early PvE zones, so you've got room to experiment, mess around, and figure out what kind of setup suits your playstyle. Whether you're focused on production efficiency, aesthetics, or both, the game gives you plenty of room to build a place that suits you. Once you've gathered the materials you need, crafting feels nicely streamlined. There's no need to run back and forth searching for items in a recipe. The game smartly pulls items from both your personal inventory and base storage. Click, walk away, and come back when it's done. Even better, crafting new gear or structure actually feels impactful. Each tier of equipment gives you a noticeable upgrade over the last, and nothing really feels like filler or padding. Every item researched or crafted feels like it matters, which is a nice break from the grind-heavy loops of other survival games. Experience points also flow naturally from everything you do. Gathering, crafting, exploring, fighting, leveling doesn't feel like it's the goal. It feels more like it's just the byproduct of engaging with systems that you're already doing. Early on, the game introduces the journey, a guided progression system that walks you through core mechanics and gradually opens up the world. It's optional in places, but certain key unlocks like class abilities or tool use are gated behind it. However, this never really feels forced, but it's there for when you want it. You can veer off the path at any time, but you'll eventually want to loop back to hit those milestones. Scattered across the Hagar Basin are quest hubs like trade posts, which offer more traditional MMO-style tasks.
I can show you how to fight. I
can teach you how to kill.
Experience points, credits, kill quests, delivery missions, nothing stands out about these quests, but they help direct your attention across the map and help give structure to exploration. Trade posts are also where you'll find faction representatives for when you're ready to fight for a specific faction. But the real flexibility comes from the class system. You start by choosing one class, but you're never really locked in. Eventually, you can track down all 5 class trainers and mix abilities from different roles. The game doesn't tell you where these trainers are either. You'll need to explore, ask other players, or consult the pre-explored map like me. I'm sorry. The twist is that you're only limited to 3 active abilities and 3 passive abilities at any one time. This limitation forces you to build a cohesive hybrid playstyle, one that suits your preferences and later on complements allies in group combat. It's a clever, minimalistic system that balances freedom with structure, more like MOBA combat than your typical MMORPG. Overall, progression in Dune Awakening doesn't feel like something you're grinding towards. It feels like something that happens while you're doing what you enjoy. Whether it's building the base of your dreams, gathering rare materials, running through an open world dungeon, or following your journey, the game keeps laying on small wins to keep the momentum moving forward. One mechanic that reinforces this is intel. These are small pickups scattered across the map that you'll come across, usually inside outposts, that reward exploration with new XP and intel points. You use intel points to research and unlock new crafting recipes. In my playthrough, I decided to rush through the beginning to get my first sandbike, but later on found myself stuck for intel, so I had to go back to where I started to explore and collect up all the intel points I missed to help with my crafting research. One of the first surprises for me was how fun it feels just moving around. Oh, that was a damn good one. Hell yeah. While the vehicle is practically mandatory for long distance travel, especially with how big zones are, the game offers a surprisingly good toolkit for short distance mobility, assuming you pick the right skills, that is. The Shigawai, for example, which I picked up early from the Trooper class trainer, lets you zip to ledges, stun enemies, or provide escape routes with a satisfying snap. Pair this with the Suspensor Belt, which lets you hover short distances or soften falls, and suddenly the game opens up vertically, because in DA, you're not just running between locations, you're climbing, gliding, and grappling between them. It reminds me of Last Oasis's grappling hook gameplay that felt so freeing at the time, providing movement opportunities that aren't really typical to MMOs. The stamina and energy costs do force you to manage your traversal though, but it's a fair trade that keeps it grounded while still feeling freeing. There's also plenty of ways you can improve your stamina capacity, including staying hydrated. As for combat, it's relatively simple. The PvE encounters revolve around light, heavy, stagger, and slow blade attacks across a variety of swords, daggers, and ranged weapons interacting with Holtzman shields. But it's the mixing and matching of abilities and passives that gives it a little bit more nuance. Since you can slot any 3 actives and 3 passives at a time and pull from any class you've unlocked, you can easily create a hybrid build tailored to how you like to fight, and I imagine players will constantly discover new metas as the game continues to develop in the future. And while combat isn't the core loop in Dune Awakening early on, personally I think it feels responsive and weighty enough to keep things engaging. And when the mobility tools are layered on top of it, hovering over an enemy, grappling to a roof mid-fight, diving into cover while your shields recharge, it can help to make even basic engagements a little bit more exciting. Overall though, the combat is probably the game's weakest point, and I don't think we'll see it evolve much further in the game's future. The enemy variety in PvE is also very limited for now, mostly bandits and the occasional elites, but I'm expecting the real depth to come from PvP encounters, where multiple players with different class combinations, buggies, tanks, and ornithopters clash in more dynamic combined arms battles. With the right tuning, I could see this evolving into something that feels closer to squad-based PvPv combat with meaningful roles and synergy between classes. Hopefully. So after 30 hours, what do I really think? With its survival MMO hybrid and server meshing technology for the deep desert, Dune Awakening has a ton of potential for future content, DLCs, and expansions. Funcom have stated they're in it for the long haul and foresee a 10-year plan later down the road. However, Dune Awakening's endgame and PvP is largely untested, and the long-term endgame could easily be the game's downfall if it isn't honed in. In a mere few days or weeks, We'll find out as more of the player base begins to hit the endgame, expanding into the deep desert. The deep desert itself is ambitious, but we haven't seen how it truly holds up under player pressure, faction warfare, or live balancing. Monetization-wise, Funcom is intent on keeping it to cosmetic DLCs and season passes, and with the way the game is designed, I can see ample opportunity for them to monetize the game in a healthy way moving forward. Funcom has great momentum here from its successful head start launch. They now need to hold on to that and pray the endgame can hold players' attention to ensure the game's longevity. But right now, this game works well. It gives you freedom without overwhelming you, it respects your time, and it wraps it all in a genuinely atmospheric Dune package that's a lot more stable and engaging than I expected. Whether that holds true at 100 hours or 1,000, I'm not sure yet, but for now, I'm in. I'll likely follow this up with another review later into the game's future, but in the meantime, I hope I can create some awesome narrative adventures you're more accustomed to later on in the deep desert. Special thanks as always for watching, and of course to my meaty members for your incredible support that helps me continue to make quality YouTube content for you to enjoy. For now, stay hydrated my fellow meatbags, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.